Hi, I'm Kyle with DIY Auto Homeschool, and today we've got a 2005 Honda Accord, and it's got a bad wheel bearing. Now, they said they heard a noise, hum noise, howling noise, driving down the road, comes and goes, maybe 40, 50 miles an hour, somewhere in there. So, took it out for a test drive, verified. Sounds like a wheel bearing, left to right, acts like a wheel bearing. Came back, picked it up. Hand on the springs, actually it was on the rear because you could tell it was coming from the rear. Hands on the springs, spin it, tell it's this right side. So in this video, because I've already got a video where we kind of walk through how to diagnose a wheel bearing. In this video, we're just going to walk through replacing the wheel bearing. Now these, I don't know, they're not all that common to go out. It happens every now and then, but not nearly as common as like the front wheel bearings tend to go out. But it's pretty straightforward, pretty easy process, so it should be a pretty quick video. Anybody who wants to tackle this themselves should be able to. So let's go ahead and jump right into it. So, as with anything that involves removing the wheel and such, first step is going to be raise and support the vehicle. If you got a lift, make it super easy. If not, jack and jack stand work just fine. Don't forget the jack stand. They're pretty important. You don't want to drop this on yourself. So if you don't have an impact or something of the sorts to take these lug nuts off with, then go ahead and break the lug nuts loose with a breaker bar or something before you raise it. But I got an impact, so we're just going to tear the wheel off of this and get to going on it. Oh, good. Well, they look like they're getting down a little bit low on the brakes. Typically just do the brakes at the same time, but these are my parents, so they'll just bring the car back to me whenever they feel like having. You can kind of hear that bearing just sitting here. You don't even have to feel it in the spring. You can hear it. So we're gonna basically, caliper has to come off, bracket has to come off. So I think we'll just take them off together. Rotor comes off, and then we'll be able to get this wheel bearing out. So this is the top bolt. It's at the top edge. This is right where the dust shield behind the rotor's at. And this is the bracket bolt that we're going to be taking off. I believe it's a 14. Let's see. Sure looks 14-ish. See if we can get the impact back in there. Oh man, I don't think we're gonna be able to get the impact in there with you guys in there, and I'm not gonna kick you out. Man, I tell you what, I was looking forward to getting to use that 3/8 on this to see. I've used it a bit. I got that Milwaukee 3/8 mid torque, and I've used it a bit. But I'm really kind of looking forward to getting to use it some more. Let's try to get this lower bolt. Okay, so that's probably about the best shot I can get right now of the back. Up here is the bolt we loosened up. Where is it? Up here. And down here, behind here is the other bolt. I'll show you when we get them out. It's super hard to show while I'm doing it. And I got you back far enough. I could use the camera, or use the impact and not hit the camera. So let's see if that turns out to be the case. Ooh, you guys took a little shift, almost took a tumble there. But this impact sure did its job. Let's take another shot at this one up here. Here we go. So bolt comes out of the top, bolt comes out of the bottom. So we'll come in here, and we don't want to bend anything, we just want to kind of lightly push this caliper back off. What are we hanging up on? Okay, so let me show you. So I think what we're hanging up on is this brake hose. Comes down and it bolts in right here, and then it goes out to the caliper. There is literally nothing at all to set the camera on or around, so you guys have to put up with me going freehand holding the camera while I try to zip this out, and you get to watch me use the wrong socket size. Is that a 12? 1 second, I threw my 12. Okay, I think we got the right size. Is this the right size? That's the right size. Alright, let's have another go at it, huh? Ooh, sorry if that's loud. I'll try to turn the volume down. Alright, back out to the front. Okay, so now we should probably have enough room, enough play to pull this off. I don't think that parking brake cable is going to hold us up very much. And that noise is just hit kind of bumping into the backing plate, the dust shield on the back. So this has enough connected to it and enough weight it can sit back here on this arm. It's not going to go anywhere. If it was in chance of falling or hanging on that hose, I'd hang it up, but it's good. Now let's try to get this rotor off. And because some of you guys will mention it, and you're right, there are these holes right here that are threaded, and they're supposed to, or they're designed so that you could take a bolt. I hope you can see both sides. Maybe you can't. Anyway, so there's one on each side, one here and one 180, and they're designed so you take bolts in there and press it off. But what I'm going to do is just take a hammer and just tap this and see if we can't just knock that off, knock it loose at first. See if we can't just get it off that way. One of the things to remember when you're doing this is you don't want to come in here, if you're going to be hitting right here, you don't want to come in and swing low and lay this down the side of those threads, because you'll lay all these threads over, and then you'll either have to take a thread file and stand it back up, or fix it, or put a new stud in. If we make that mistake, it's not the end of the world, because in this case the new bearing comes with new studs. But I tend to use this to just kind of keep the hammer away from the actual studs. Huh. There we go. Goodness, look at that. Seen better days, hasn't it? So is this bearing. And it's got some noise to it. Ugh, okay. So these bearings will pull this dust cap off, and I think that might be just a hair big for my dust cap pliers. I'm not sure. So you can't come in here with a sharp chisel or a screwdriver, but you want to be really careful, because if you distort it much, I mean, if you just distort it a little, you can get it flattened back out, put it back on. But if you distort it too much, you got to get a new cap, and we want to avoid that if we can. But I guess I'll go ahead and grab a little sharp chisel, see if I can just kind of start to loosen that up. So we'll take this chisel, and we're just going to be super, super careful and try to set it right along that line. And we're not going crazy on it. We're just going to start to work it a little bit. And once we can get that maybe moved a little or broken, the edge cleared up, can start to kind of angle it outward. But we'll just hit it a time or two around here. You can see it starting to move already. So this one we'll probably tap it and then pull the chisel back as far as the front of the hub there will let you. Start to tap it a little bit more and then come 180 from that. Same thing. And that should probably be enough. And there you go. Okay, so now this one is dusty, so I want to clean it up a little just to knock the dust out. You can use brake clean, but if you start off with air and then move to brake clean, you won't like basically make mud out of it. All right, now let's. All right. So now let's get this axle nut off. This axle nut is different. Let's move those bolts out of the way. It's different than what you've probably seen on the front wheel drive versions. Well, it's okay, the axle nut's not, but this setup, because you don't have to lock the brakes or anything to do this, because this center part is not part of an axle. This is a spindle and it's locked, it's solid, it doesn't move. So when you break it loose, when you torque it, you don't need to like put something between the studs to lock it or hold the brakes or anything. And you could come in here with an impact and zip this out, but just to keep from possibly damaging anything, I'm going to come in right here and I'm going to try to knock this out just a little bit. And that is in there a little. Let me see if I can't get this punch behind it just to bring it out a little bit. They stake it down in that hole so that if it were to try to move or loosen up, it won't be able to. That hole will catch the little piece that you stake down into it. So if you just knock it back out, you shouldn't have any issues whatsoever. And I kind of feel bad because this is, let me zoom out a little bit here so you guys can see. This is my new one. I kind of like this. This is the mid-torque half-inch. And I got the high torque, but you know, I haven't run into anything that I need to use the high torque on yet. But so this nut will come off either with a breaker bar, a ratchet, or just an impact. And then our bearing should just come right off. We may gently persuade it. Actually, it's locking up here. Let's see. There we go. And we did leave our inner race there, so we're going to need to get that off. Socket's running away. So let's get that inner race off and get this new bearing put on. So usually when you deal with these, getting a race off like this, it's on like the front wheel bearings where it's stuck on the hub. And I'm going to try to do this the same way I do that. Basically, I'm going to take a cutoff wheel, and hope you guys can see here. I'm going to try to take a cutoff wheel and just put a line across it and in that divot too, without touching this and without messing up the sensor. I'd go and I'd take heat to this, but with that sensor right there, and I don't want to mess with that sensor if I don't have to. The idea is score this deep enough that I can take a chisel in the groove and I can give it a good whack and it'll crack the race and then come right off. That's the idea. Oh, wrong way. Let's try it out. Wear safety glasses too when you do this. If you do this. Hopefully you don't have to. Okay, so can you see that? So I just came in and I cut an angle right across there, and I hope that's deep enough that I can take a fat chisel and just give a good whack or two, and it'll fracture this race, and then it'll be loose. Pull it right off. And let me give you a warning. If you didn't wear safety glasses when you were cutting that, if you have to cut it, wear them when you hit it. The reason being, when these races splinter or break, they like to send pieces off, and they like to send pieces off very quickly. You'll get them embedded in your forearm or something. Can also go right into your eye. So like I said, I got a big chisel, and I'm going to give it a good whack or two and hope that I got enough to break it. I don't know if that got it. I don't think I got enough oomph. You hear that noise? I don't know if you heard it. I heard it. It's a very distinct noise when a bearing cracks. But now I should be able to. I can see a crack right down that race. It's cracked, but it's still on there pretty stout. Let's see if I can't give it another whack or two. You can see that's starting to come. I may be able to get a puller on it, but in the time I can get a puller out, I can probably just drive it off. Now let me try something I can manage and handle it. That maybe a puller is worth it. Nope, no puller. Really? You're gonna fight me? This last little bit. Alright. So, I had to look up and double check, because goodness, I'd have been disappointed if I did that and found out I wasn't recording. So make sure this is clean, and that back there is clean, and then we'll get the new bearing and we'll put it on there. Now you can see there's some marks right here, but these have no feel to them. It's just kind of from that bearing moving and shifting and running over it as I tried to get it off. And this is a pretty good fit on there, and it's not going to be an issue. So we'll just lightly, very lightly, kind of tap it. In fact, I might even, just to go around that. There we go. It doesn't take much. You don't have to like wail on it to tap it on. And then, alright, so I like to try to get new nuts. In this case, I went and I got a new nut. See this? Look, I got a new nut. They sold me the wrong one. I bet you they sold me one for the front. So I'm going to put this on, and I'm going to torque it to 134 foot-pounds, and that's what it is for this vehicle. Don't assume it's the same for yours. Look up yours somehow if you're able to. Find a resource, something where you can verify that that's it. And let me step in front of you real quick here. Sorry. Okay, so this is what I wanted to look at and see. I came a little bit past the old area. Let's take a closer look at this. I came a little bit past, and I think I can get a good stake right there. If I was concerned that I wouldn't be able to get a good stake, I'd definitely go get a new nut. But I think in this case, we're going to be fine. Sometimes that might look a little bit big. We may use just a straight punch here. I think that's a good enough stake. It's not going to come loose. It's not going to have any issues. We've got that on. Now, honestly, yeah, I'm going to put this back together to show you guys, but I'm probably not going to let this make it a week or so before I put brakes on this for them. Now, these little divoted areas where sometimes screws were at, those screws don't have to go back in, but you might as well just, I don't know, just to do it, line them up with the threads where they would go. But this is actually, let's get that cleaned up real quick. You don't want anything that's gonna let this not sit right. Yeah, so we'll line these up with where they should go. And well, if you can look, you can see through there, there's the threads where the screws would go. Those screws, they don't need to be there. It's not like they're super direly important. So they would help, like in this case, just to help hold this straight while I put that on, I will thread down a lug nut. Those screws would help in this instance. But so what we're going to do is just pull this up here, line that back up. I need to push those pads back in place. And if you were putting new brakes on, that'd gone on a lot easier. So that'll push on, and like I said, here within probably a week, probably before they take it back this time, or I give it back to them this time, I'll put new brakes on this. They're about ready for it. Look at these rotors; they're getting all nasty in the rear. So follow or expect a short after this follow-up video. Putting brakes on the rear of one of these Hondas. If I don't already have that video, I don't know if I do or not. So, you want to go through and look up the torque specs to tighten all this stuff down before you wrap it all up. These two bolts go back in the same holes they came out of in the back. The bolt that holds that down. And then take this, don't go hog wild, just kind of work it down. Alright, then take our wheel, goodness. And we can get the lug nut started. And I'll zip these down, not super tight, but just tight enough to hold it and seat it. And then I'll put it on the ground and torque it. Just on there snug. Make sure that backing plate, the air deflector on the back, is not touching. So that's how you remove and replace the rear wheel bearing on your Honda Accord. Like I said, this one's a 2005. I'll make sure I'll put the year range, make sure I verify what year range all this will work on. But that's how you do it. Pretty straightforward process. Anybody fairly mechanically inclined ought to be able to do this. So thank you for taking the time to watch the video. I really hope it helped you out if you were facing this issue, and I will catch you guys in the next one.